Good evening. We're going to go to the second portion of tonight's meeting with the regular Select Board meeting. I'm going to, again, December 9th, 2025 at 9:10. We're going to call this regular meeting to order. Chris is on, we have a quorum. Sam is at a family gathering, and, excuse me?
Sam's on Zoom.
Oh, great. So Sam is on Zoom, I'm sorry, and Chris is too. So we have the full Select Board members, and we're going to move right to approval of the minutes.
First, I just want to recognize that we acknowledge that we are over 9 o'clock, which according to our bylaws is when we are supposed to end a meeting. So we apologize for that, and we hope you bear with us. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think you just acknowledge there's an extenuating circumstance. And
Okay. So sorry, I move to approve the meeting minutes from October 14th, 2025.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
I think, I don't know how it works here, but in Portland, if you're on Zoom, you have to do a roll call.
Oh, that's a good point. Roll call vote. Chris?
Yes.
Sam? Derek?
I'm here, I did.
Oh, I thought everyone...
Just on Zoom.
Just one in Zoom?
Yep.
Fantastic. Again, Sam, you still with us? All right. Abstaining is the same as a solid vote, according to the bylaws.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from October 21st, 2025.
I'll second.
Sam? All in favor? Okay.
Chris?
Chris,
Yes.
Oh,
I
He
raised
still
my
has to
hand.
vote. Thank you.
yeah, I kind
I
of,
vote yes.
he had his hand up first. New business, consideration of the business license, Performance Motorsports LLC. Is Matthew still here?
I'm here, yes.
Wayne, real quickly, I'm going to move things along as quickly as I can, I'm sorry, but is there anything we need to know before we move forward with looking at the information? Any reason we shouldn't?
He's muted.
You're muted, Dwayne.
Okay.
Sorry about that. We haven't performed the inspection as of yet. That's scheduled for Friday. So if you approve it, it should be subject to meeting the fire and life safety requirements from that inspection.
Matt, you want to give us a little bit of history?
Yep. So we currently do business in Naples. We are an automotive dealership. We also sell vehicle accessories and install tires. And we're looking to move our business to 1250 Roosevelt Trail in Raymond, which was the old tire warehouse building.
Oh, thank you for the location, that helps.
Yep.
Any questions? Seeing none?
I'll make a motion to approve the business license application of Performance Motorsports LLC pending a fire and life inspection and then completion of any pending or finding completion of any findings of that inspection.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Sam? Okay.
Yes.
Great, thank you. The next thing will be the presentation. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to look at this, but before I turn it over to Bob, I have to tell you, it was pretty impressive work. I mean, there was a lot to this, more than I really had any idea with. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Bob. You can give us a quick overview, why you did what you did, and your summary is going to make all the difference with me.
All right, thanks, Dennis.
Robert O'Neill, Spring Valley Road in Raymond, and I'm here this evening as chair of the planning board. A little different being on this side of the podium. But a quick, I should be able to get through this, I think, probably an hour, hour and a half, Dennis, with no problem at all.
Well, that's fine. I had nothing else to do with the rest of my life.
So on April 10th, a group of residents came before you with or most of you that were here, with a proposed ordinance for a short-term rental. They had the requisite 278 signatures, but all of those signatures were not on the last proposal of that ordinance. It had changed along the way during the months that they had gained those signatures. So the selectmen at the time turned it over to the planning board and asked us to review the ordinance that was turned in and to make recommendations and changes and to return it to you. Our first look through the ordinance, I could tell you that the planning board, there was not a lot of appetite for doing anything other than, what a good neighbor would be if you were renting your property next door for a week or 2 weeks. But as we got further into it and heard more testimony from the community, we started to realize that there was, if not maybe some minor problems, but certainly some problems could develop. And I think Peter Levitt said it best, and he said that most of our planning board ordinances that we work on, which is very, very accurate, is as a result of some problem that we see. And while we don't really see a huge problem right now, we do see some problems, but there's not that we're trying to be a little bit more proactive with this ordinance. Some of that, so from April 10th on till actually to the last meeting, we held some public workshops, we had some public comments, we got a lot of comments both for and against. Most of the community that talked raised concerns that in some road associations that there was a 50% chance that the home that was being put for sale would become a short-term rental property and not lived in by the community. There would be properties that would be solely used for short-term rentals. That kind of got us onto the train of thought that, well, if it's a short-term rental and used for short-term rental, that it should be a business, and that would be easy to control with their ordinance. But according to Phil Saucier, it's not a business being a short-term rental. So we proceeded in a different path. The ordinance that you have, the proposed ordinance that you have before you now addresses the key components are that we've looked at safety. We looked at safety of occupancy. We looked at, as a firefighter, we looked at safety of egress from bedrooms that are properly used as bedrooms. And we looked at the limits on occupancy. How many people could actually be in the community, be in the property both daytime and overnight. There's a cost associated with this, and if it goes through, you will be asked to assign some cost associated with a license to get that we would request, or actually we would require that everyone that has a rental property obtain a license. Those fees can be sliding based upon how often the property is being rented. It can't be a moneymaker for the town, but it can offset any of the expenses that would be incurred by the town for doing safety inspections, for policing the fact that people are in fact registering their property. Some of the concerns raised were that the ordinance was not restrictive enough. If you did have a chance to look at that initial ordinance, there was lots of things in there that didn't even seem to be legal, but in fact they are. For an example, for a block that has 2 short-term rentals on it, you can restrict anybody else from having a short-term rental on it. That's not in that proposed ordinance that you have, but it is interesting that you actually can be much more restrictive. And that was one of the concerns raised, that the proposed ordinance was not restrictive enough. The other concern is that there's insufficient enforcement. And it's an ordinance. There will be some sort of enforcement through code if in fact complaints come in. But the concern is at 2 o'clock in the morning when the party is going on, the sheriff's not going to respond. I mean, there's no enforcement in the ordinance that would alleviate that, and therefore they were not concerned about it. The other concern, major concern, was that it's not necessary. And that is, we have not had lots of complaints right now. There doesn't appear to be more than singular problems. And therefore, we are putting through an ordinance without a lot of data to support that ordinance. And that is a valid complaint, but you don't get the data unless you have the ordinance. So the goal, one of the goals of the ordinance is to get that data, to find out how many of our homes are turning into short-term rentals only to be used as short-term rentals, vice the traditional camp rental. And the ordinance does not limit in any way that traditional Maine camp rental that has been going on in Raymond for probably 30, 40 years. Phil has looked through this ordinance. He's looked through the prior ones. He's given us some suggestions, but everything in there is in fact legal, is in fact being used by other communities, and will pass the test. So I do have a couple other things, but we've been here a while. This is well past my bedtime. Can I answer any questions?
I had one or two, as you might imagine. Under the section 3.5, talks about the renewal may not be considered for insurance by the town. Is there a timetable? How did, the only thing I was wondering about is it a 3-month or how do you, I didn't see timetables here on that particular one, 5.
A timetable on what? On getting a license?
If you restrict it, if you say the way I read this is that if they don't meet certain qualifications, we won't renew.
Correct.
And so, is that just until they fix it, or is it? Do they have do you come back in 6 months, or was there any of that talk? That's all.
Yeah. No. It would be if you don't meet the safety requirements, you don't get the license. Right?
Okay.
And that goes if code is continuing to get complaints over the year on the property, then you wouldn't get to renew your license next year.
For a whole year?
Correct.
Okay. I didn't catch the year. I read this real quickly. I had my hands full, as you might imagine.
You're kidding. Okay.
And then under...
By the way, Brett's here to answer all the tough questions.
well, still section 3 over on G, application decision.
Yep.
Is there an appeal process? I didn't, I blew through this, so... And I'm just curious if there's an appeals process, that's all.
No.
Okay. And you must have had a reason for that.
Yeah, and there was. Actually, that was the legal reason. We had one in there, but Phil recommended we take it out.
Go ahead.
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah, we do have an.
Oh, I
Sorry.
noticed this. Go ahead.
Brett Wimpkin, I work with Sebago Technics, contract planner for the town. There is a Section 6 appeals. We wanted to at least outline some very basic framework that essentially would follow the same appeals process, having to go before the zoning board of appeals. Not necessarily any subject criteria that staff would have to make. We did have that previously in there where there was some pretty standardized typical language you might find for where you could appeal that language to staff, but that is more appropriate just in that form of government, just to send that over to the zoning board of appeals.
last question for me, and then...
And there are also no waivers in there, too.
Excuse me?
There are no waivers in that ordinance.
Is there built-in fines here, or are you going to wait for the code officer in the town to decide whether the fines would be applicable? Did I miss it?
No.
I think you. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go.
I think the only fine is the three strikes, and you lose.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
more punitive in the sense that you can't continue to rent.
Correct.
Okay. I just didn't know if what was up, because, I know that stuff gets talked about for revenues, and it's not my intent. I just was asking.
Yep.
Any more questions? Any questions?
I have a couple. I think Peter brought up that you guys, there's no recommendation or not recommended pass-through from the planning board from the last meeting to get it to here to us. Is that? Is that kind of the case? I saw most of them. I did not see that last meeting that you guys had.
Yeah, the feeling of the board was that since it was sent to us and it by you, and it wasn't brought up through the board, that our obligation was just to put it into a workable document and send it back to you.
Okay.
It was not ours to say we recommend or don't recommend this. It's just that you've asked us to do this, and we're passing the hot potato back.
Okay. And are you guys, after we give our comments and things like that, are you guys going back to tweak it and vote on it and recommend it or not for the public, or are you just done with it?
This is it. We are, well, unless you have specific things that you don't like that you want to send it back to us again, we're at the point now that this is the best we're going to come up with it now. We recognize that we probably will need to change it in the following years to revise it, but we are hoping it does not come back to us.
And why would you think it would need to be changed?
Well, I think it would need to be changed as to whether or not where we see the restrictions. Are the restrictions too restrict, or does the community feel that we need to be slightly more restrictive? There is a feeling amongst the community that the short-term rentals, as used as specific homes being used full-time short-term rentals, is beginning to change the character of the community, definitely the character around the lakes. And that is a major concern, which is why one of the reasons was they wanted to limit the number that could actually be on a block. So hopefully that once this gets put into place, it will kind of stem some of that influx. Other communities are putting in short-term rentals ordinances. A number of our communities in the area are putting in short-term rental or working on them right now. I think not having something in place would put us behind the other communities and leave the door open for companies to come in, just buy up properties and set up basically hotels, which is what the short-term rental is becoming.
I understand that maybe Androscoggin County is coming up with a county-wide short-term rental. Do you know if Cumberland County is doing that or not?
I don't believe they're doing that because Phil, who is working with a number of communities, I did not mention it, but I can't talk to them.
Okay. I just have a few notes all the way through here. I guess, it's a pretty big ordinance and pretty specific on a lot of areas. And if you said there was no problems right now, I was just wondering if maybe a smaller ordinance or just a registration at the beginning would suffice, since we don't know what we're doing yet. But I guess you're saying go with this and then try to tweak it and change it back later. But I think once you put an ordinance into place, I've seen a lot of ordinances go into place and then it's harder, and the town and community gets like this before we revert back and try to fix it, as we had with the solar ordinance.
Right.
So I think it's really beneficial for this to go through maybe some more scrutiny and some more, I hate to send it back to you guys, but I'm just saying to tweak maybe some more until you guys are really ready to recommend and you're solid behind it. But.
Well, two things, Derek. One, it is, like I said, there was a significant push for this to be much more restrictive.
Yeah.
Right now, it really is.
By who?
By the 278 signatures that put forth that original ordinance to you.
Yep. Okay.
Right now, it is very restrictive, only in the safety world.
Yep.
It is limiting occupancy based upon septic system. It's limiting the number of bedrooms based upon Wayne's inspection on egress. It's requiring a registration so that we can get a feel for how many properties are being in there.
Are there current safety issues happening, or is that still on the note when you first said there's not a huge problem? Do you know if Wayne or the fire department said there's a lot of issues right now with the short-term rentals or not?
No, because there's no inspections right now. There's no way of knowing right now.
No, I know. I guess I'm saying, are there any issues? Are people getting hurt? Are we getting calls from short-term rentals? Is that a big issue, or is that a problem? Or I mean, I know you haven't gone out and measured windows to see if they have, but that not having the right window is going to cause an issue or a problem or somebody getting hurt. Has that been a big concern?
Correct. No.
Okay.
I mean, no, but a lot of those Dennis will tell you, a lot of those safety issues are to be preventive, not to be,
Yep.
fix the problem, not to fix the problem after someone gets burnt, but
Yep.
try to fix the problem before they get burnt.
Yep.
But in that regard, we're not going to enforce today's standards on the egress from bedrooms.
That was another question I had.
Yeah.
It's going to be at the point where the house was built. So if your window is now, Dennis, I forgot now you remember?
Well, I think we just said it well. We don't need to go to an egress window regardless until they do a major
Right,
remodeling or
exactly.
whatever.
And I guess that's where it starts to get really vague in some of this, is what it says. I think most of this is kind of like reverting it back to code or reverting it back to life safety, whether they think there's an issue currently or not. Is there?
No,
am
it's
I
not just whether or not they think about it. It's going to be based upon
the inspection that they have.
the inspection manual, right?
Right.
So if you want to under the ordinance, if you want to rent out your cabin on the lake,
Yep.
you have to get a license to do that.
Yes.
To get that license.
Register. You just have to register.
Right, register.
Okay.
You're going to have to register that. In order to do that, in order to register, you're going to have to get both code and Wayne to come down and give it the fire inspection and to determine the septic system is in fact capable of supporting the bedrooms.
Okay.
That's
So
it.
right there, that's my question, I guess. When they show up and it's a L.C. Andrews log cabin from 1906 and that egress window is not up to code or anything, nothing has to be changed. They're fine. They can still register
Correct.
even though it's tiny and they have a bed in there.
Correct.
Okay.
It's been in existence. It's not going to be, it doesn't have to be retrofitted.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. By the time we go through and really do some reading on this, now that people know this is out, I take care of 12 places on the lake. There's one that has a Airbnb that's full-time. And in the beginning, there was a lot of concerns. Even I saw some things I thought were kind of crazy, but it didn't develop into a major concern. So what I don't want to do, and it's a capitalistic country we still live in, we have a very valuable thing here in Raymond. It's called the waterfront. But it isn't just the waterfront. They can have views of the waterfront. They can have, something up on top of Tenny Hill. So I was impressed with this. I watched 2 of your meetings. I couldn't believe how much interaction and changing from one minute to, meeting to the other, because you would think about it and come back and say, well, I've been thinking about that, and we want to change. So I give a lot of credence to this, and I do think that we have to have something. I'm not sure if it's just the safety, which was important to me. We're not going to be able to control the speeders, and believe it or not, that was the number one concern we had with down on Deep Cove, was the people coming in. I heard this. When we hit the turnpike, we're in Maine, it's all wilderness, it's cowboy town, and they drive.
Which is crazy because on the turnpike they go 45. What are we doing?
So with that said, we haven't had the bonfires next door. We haven't had the noise and the complaints. So I guess what I would say to you is, I thought this was well done. I thought it was not as restricted as I expected to come out of the other committee. And I probably would not be supportive of this as if it had been. I guess that's where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a really good start. That's my personal opinion. I don't know if we might weaken it if we find out that, in fact, and this is why I'm saying it, it's a capitalistic world. If someone can make money, then it's a business. That's the only difference I would have, that if a house is full-time, then it's a business and it's worth more. But we can't do that. We can't go there. I understand that. But if I had the money to buy a place, I'd probably be doing it. So with that said, I think this is a good start. I don't think tonight, we're gonna let you speak.
I still have 3 more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. D, section 3, 3.5, yes, D. Property has 3 or more documented and relevant instances of disturbances or violations. Who is going to be in charge of saying whether they are relevant or, because I mean, what I don't like in most ordinances and what I don't like about exploding the government and having a million ordinances about every little thing is that your community, your neighbor versus neighbor, happens, and it happens especially on the waterfront. If this guy got to do one thing, why can't I do that? And now all of a sudden they just complain because the neighbor is the neighbor, and they either like each other or they don't. And then you ring up 3 on some neighbor that you don't like, and then you don't.
Yeah,
There's
and
no
I
real
don't
merit
think
behind it.
I agree with you, Derek. I don't have a good answer for that.
Okay.
The only thing I can say is that, it does going to have to go through code. And, we got to rely on Jason to be able to make an intelligent decision as to, this is a neighbor on neighbor, or this is really,
Right. And then that's
really a problem.
kind of what I'm saying. That's the triangle of nobody, at the end, nobody's going to like anybody. But,
Yep.
it is what it is. It happens. So that's one of my big concerns. I mean, I don't know if we.
1 second, Derek, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say just another thing too to help Jason out. That way it's not just super subjective. We do have section 4 in there for some basic performance standards. That does outline some basic criteria for Jason at least to like if they're violating occupancy, for example. That's pretty cut and dry where Jason can go in there and clearly see if there's a violation or not. Whether it's a civil dispute, that's not necessarily something that can be a performance standard because it is a personal thing. But we did try our best to really try to balance some of the things that we heard from the community with those restrictions versus giving Jason still that freedom to enforce something.
Yep. I mean, I don't know if he even wants that, but because then it puts him at the person who's saying, because it's very judgmental on what, if that really is a severe. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And then the part on that would be, is that over the life of your rental? 3, say somebody rents for 30 years?
We were thinking of an annual.
Every year.
That's
Okay.
how I read it.
That's better. Okay.
Yep.
Insurance one, is that doable?
So I guess I can speak a little bit on the insurance part, and that one stemmed more from some of the environmental concerns that we heard from the community. If like septic backs up into the lake, we want to make sure that that property owner, whoever's operating that Airbnb, let's say, that they are insured to cover that amount. To pay for those repairs or damages caused to the community.
If it hits state waters, though, are they going to touch it? Is the question I have.
DEP gets involved. That's what happens.
DEP will get involved in that specific instance. However, the evidence of insurability is a mechanism that's pretty common in a lot of other short-term rental ordinances that we've researched.
Yeah.
I would also say that I imagine most Airbnb or Vrbo owners, I guess, or operators also have to get their own form of insurance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For theirs. And
so. But this is, again, just more of something that the town can kind of fall back on in case there are issues where it may have a community-wide impact.
Because this one seems like, I mean, I get you're kind of not terribly bright if you're going to rent out your property and not have insurance to cover yourself and your thing.
Right.
But this seems like it's more geared towards lake or neighbors or someone else, and I just don't know. My insurance company would be like, we're not covering you.
The community wanted $1 million bond put up, but which didn't work. So the insurance knowing that if you're using the property, and again, I'll use the term incorrectly as a business, but ensuring that that business used incorrectly can fix any problems that may impact the town is what we were after.
Right. We had a commercial insurance guy here, and I really wanted him to stay, but he bounced after the first meeting because I just wanted to ask him because I know on some of mine I'm just not covered on other people's stuff. You know what I mean? On other people's property.
Well, this is not for other people's property. This is just basically for the septic and for damage that could be incurred by the property.
Who's the covered party?
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. Who's the covered party?
So just that property itself.
Right.
Okay.
The insurance company won't cover the town. My insurance company.
Mark,
I don't think
Mark, I'm sorry. You would at least have to get up to the podium.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and I'm I know that you have a couple. I'm familiar with that part of it, and you're going to have a chance to speak too.
I just only have one more, and that'll be done.
I think what's important here is the board will speak, they will answer, and then we turn it over to anyone in the community that wants to speak on it. And believe me, we value the community's input.
The last one, the only last one I have is more of a question on how this one's written. Are you guys? I know the first couple meetings you were doing the +2 on the septic system.
Yep.
Can you dumb it down for me and tell me what you guys came to on occupancy limits?
Well, sure. And this was a tough one because,
Because I heard two different things. I had one from a board member on the planning board, but I read it differently, so I just rather.
yeah, so the problem is really there is the two individuals per bedroom
Yep.
occupancy thing. Really, we have not been able to find anything that really as a reference for that. I mean, it's kind of like a standard,
Okay.
but it's not.
From other ordinances?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So what we went with was that you can exceed by 25% of on a short-term basis on the capacity of your septic system.
Okay.
So we went with that was two per bedroom. We went with slightly over that 2 per bedroom, and then we also looked at the fact that, well, that's for the overnight, but during the day, you may want, to bring the kids and the grandkids, whatever, to your rental. We don't want to limit the amount of people that can be there excessively limit during the amount of people there during the day.
But
so we do limit that. It's not open like everybody comes. We do limit it, but that number is not based upon the 2 per bedroom. Does that make sense?
Nope.
Okay.
So, because in here it says 4, so there's 4 adults during sunrise to sunset that can be above the 2 bedrooms, the
Right.
2 per 2 bedrooms. I mean,
Correct.
2 per however many bedrooms.
Correct.
So you can have.
And we don't count kids. That's why it says adults.
Who's gonna police that?
Yeah.
That's why. Who's coming down and going? How old are you? Is somebody in the bathroom? Who's in the water? Are they
Yeah.
the neighbors? Are they here?
There
Derek,
has been a lot of talk about this on the board.
I think that's one. Yeah, I think that's one of the things. And you're right. But no one is going to police it unless there's a problem. You as the neighbor are not going to be out there counting heads unless you are attracted to that problem, that there's a lot going on that rental and it's beginning to impact the neighbors. And if you can think of, and we discussed this, many, many times,
Yeah.
but it is if you think of a rental or a neighbor, so a neighbor's having a big party on a Saturday, 40 people over there, and it continues on, and everybody's entitled to a party, right? But in a rental situation, what you're setting up is a new set of rentals every week. So what you are potentially setting up, and I'm not saying it's being done, but what you're potentially setting up is that Saturday party every single Saturday. And that's a lot different than just the occasional party by your neighbor. And if in fact that is the case, then you are going to count heads, and then you are going to call code, and you are going to put in that, hey, there were just too many people there.
I get that, and I just think the whole neighbor versus neighbor, and then
I understand.
you also are signing these. You're doing it, I guess, as a rental, and the people that are coming in are saying, yeah, we're not going to do that. Well, my wife used to be a vacation rental agent for Crane, and everybody in the world was like, oh, we don't even have a pet.
Yeah.
And then they show up and there's 4 dogs there, and they didn't pay a dog security deposit. They just straight up lie about everything. So it's like, okay, but how? Now it's like you're the owner, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. It seems sticky. It seems hard to police, and it just seems like it's going to be.
This ordinance, if it's enacted, is not going to please anybody.
Right.
Right. I mean, it was not designed that way. It was designed as a compromise between those that don't want anything and those that don't want short-term rentals. Period.
Yep.
So
and
enforcement is the problem.
So what is the overnight number? That's the part I'm still. So it's 2 per bedroom, and there's no +2 anymore. It's just strictly 2
right,
per.
2 per bedroom.
Okay.
No. It's not going to be easy to enforce.
No.
Actually,
And again-
So
the meeting you had.
because there's a
on
lot of
this-
the little camps are 2-bedroom camps, and stuff like that. So
Right.
it's a
And-
4-person.
Enforcement is, no question about it. Enforcement is going to be the problem on anything you do, right? Because the party at 2:00 in the morning, Jason's not going down there. The sheriff's not going to respond.
Yeah.
There's no enforcement, and a lot of the comments were the ordinance isn't any good because there's no enforcement in it. But what kind of the enforcement has got to be? You want to be a good neighbor, right? And being a good neighbor, takes care of all that. And if you are a good neighbor, you don't need to worry about the enforcement. If you're not a good neighbor, you have something. You have a piece of paper that says You need to be a good neighbor. And that's what the ordinance is designed for. The piece of paper that says, you got to be a good neighbor.
I was just going to add, in case anyone's curious, there are tools, there are aggregators that will scrape these platforms
Yep.
and automate that process for Jason. I used it for a vacant property ordinance in a previous community. It was a company out of Florida, and they would just run through like lenders and mortgage holder lists, and if your property was vacant and it wasn't registered, we didn't have the staff capacity to enforce it, they would issue letters on our behalf and then levy a fee in this case. But I'm sure the platforms, you could aggregate and scrape that information, and then it would self-regulate through the platforms if you upload your registration list. So people wouldn't be able to book a 6-person rental if it's only on the list for 4. I haven't looked into it yet, but there are scrapers and aggregators that will scour those platforms and just kind of, it'll self-regulate in a way if you upload the good data into them.
Thank you.
I know our permitting software they have a module that'll scrape Airbnb and kind of for compliance and
Yeah.
match up those.
Actually, with what Derek said, the meetings I watched, that was the most, I'd say contentious or whatever the word may be, but I was not envious of what you guys were going through, even amongst the board. And I knew this would be contentious in many ways. And this isn't perfect, but nothing is.
Well, I'll just say one thing. The goal is always voluntary compliance. So if you have a set of rules down and you're saying, well, how are we going to do enforcement? Unfortunately, you're assuming everybody's going to try and break the rules. And the hope, I know I shouldn't hope about this, but you set the rules down, you let the guidelines down, and the thinking is that people will actually follow the guidelines. And then enforcement is, you're looking at the egregious issues, when we're going to pop up when somebody takes a picture and there's 10 cars blocking a little camp road, stuff like that. Those are going to be the things that we're looking for.
I like the parking. I like the no parking on other people's property.
actually,
There's a lot of good
yeah,
stuff in here.
yeah.
I can. Great job, guys.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go through. Yeah, I'm not going to go through everyone that I like, but I was going to bring up the ones that I'm concerned about just to make sure that
That's fine.
it's brought on record.
And how I see this happening, because, and again, this is a tough one. I would see, obviously, there's people that want to speak on it, and we'll have them speak on it. And what I would recommend to the board, because, it makes sense to me to turn it over to the town manager and the 2 code officers who are going to be dealing with this on phone calls and complaints, and you to finalize with recommendations. And I know you've been with this the whole time, but now we're talking about implementing it. And so for the person who'd be getting the complaints, which would be the town manager, and the code people who have to go out, I'm going to let the public speak, and then that's the way I'm leaning here. Go ahead.
One second. Dennis, if I could, for someone who's been through this a long time, you're going to need to hold a public hearing on this.
Oh, yes, yes.
So I would suggest, basically since this meeting is going long and long, that you take the public's comments at the public hearing. Because otherwise you're going to hear the same thing over and over again.
Okay.
That's just...
And then finalize.
And you have a chance to look at it. Town manager has a chance to look at it. You present to the town what you're going to do. You take your public hearing.
Let me ask Chris if he has anything here. Chris, you want to say before?
Yes, I do. I think it's a good start. I like the fact that the rentals will be registered. I like the fact that they'll be inspected for life safety and in compliance with the septic rules of the state, and putting the restrictions on of 2 people per bedroom and then having an additional 4. I like that. I think it's a good start. I think we're going to have to tweak it, but I think, like I said, it's a good start, and then we'll see what they say at the public hearing and tweak it after that.
Thank you.
So the 4 plus 4, is that overnight or just dailies?
Daily.
Oh, okay.
Okay, how about Sam? Sam, you got anything you want to add before I turn it over to the public? Because I think you guys have done a good presentation. Oh, you've got something to add? I'm sorry.
Yeah, just same.
You want to say something to Chris?
No, if Sam needs to go.
Yeah, Sam? Sam, anything you want to add to this? Okay, thank you. I got the no. Kayla?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead, and I'll go after.
Okay. I just wanted to say from a planning perspective too, obviously we have a lot of momentum going for the community right now. We just, adopted our comprehensive plan, and that was one of the things that was identified within this plan.
You stole my thunder.
I know, but it was one of those things where we didn't quite know exactly what was out there. And one of the most important things of this ordinance is to begin collecting that data in terms of what's out there. We know that we can put on more restrictions, right? We know that we could cap it. We could cap short-term rentals within the shoreline zone. Even, we could even be like,
we could restrict them from the shoreline.
we could restrict them entirely from the shoreline zone. We could do all these different things, but we don't know where they're at. We don't know what they are, how they're operating, unless we begin collecting this data. So exactly to what Chris said, this really is a starting point. I think the term middle ground can sometimes be a little bit divisive, but it truly is a starting point. We can begin collecting this data, and then if we know that we need to maybe be a little bit more restrictive in some areas, or maybe a little bit less restrictive in other portions, we know that this is going to be a living document, and it's going to have to change accordingly.
I just want to say, as a real estate agent, this will, not saying for it or against it, it's just this having an ordinance, especially a short-term rental ordinance in a town like Raymond with 7, or I think we maybe more if you call the little ones, but lakes around, is a huge property change in a property value, not necessarily issue, but just so that everyone knows. Because the more restrictions you put on something and the less people keep buying these and going up, it makes the value of that go down. On the other side of it, if people are getting them and renting them and making money, it makes the value go up. So whether that's good or bad for you or whoever in the audience, I'm just saying that's something to be aware of. This will affect property values, whether it's a real tight short-term rental that hardly allows any, or it's real broad and you just have to register and do nothing. So just public service announcement.
That's
I
always
think
good.
to your point, though, if the 52-week-a-year short-term rental, the individuals that are putting up with that or living near with that right now would gladly let their home value go down a little bit and not have to put up with the rentals. There's also a lot of impact to the homeowners associations that are in place right now that were written 15, 20 years ago.
Can they do it on their own, like their own HOA?
They can do it on their own.
Okay.
But it's a vote.
Yeah. Right.
And every one of those short-term rentals gets a vote.
Yep.
So as the shifts, you're getting that shift away from what the community, those long-term residents want, and to what the short-term rental operators want. That's just another one of the comments that we've gotten. All right, unless you have something for us.
But I don't want you to leave yet. I want you, in case there's more questions I know that one person probably has a couple. If you'd like to go to the mic, just give us another 10 minutes. I think this no, you. I'm saying hang around for 10 minutes, because I have a hunch you'll have questions and statements.
You're well past my...
Mark Meister, 12 Giselle Lane. I own a short-term rental in 13 Cedar Lane, and where I live today was a short-term rental. That's how we ended up becoming residents of Raymond. We fell in love with it, and we decided to move in full-time. We now have kids in school, and we both live in our house, and we rent another property across the lake. Our property across the lake was built in 2024. It's 4 bedrooms. It's 3,600 square feet. One of the bedrooms is 15 by 30 feet. I think it's an important, I'd say that to start this dialogue. I agree, we need a registration. We need to know what's going on in town. We need to have these types of data. But we keep using the words feelings. We're hearing from the community. We think there's no data. There's no studies. We've done no math. We've done no impact analysis. We don't have any idea. And we're going to start to put a highly restrictive, highly divisive ordinance. There are multiple. There's a legal fund we already raised. We have $500,000 in a legal fund ready to sue the town. This is the part about skills. We have to really think, read, and understand things before we start shepherding them through. And I appreciate where they're coming from. They're getting feelings, but let's talk about a couple areas. One is occupancy. So my house, like I just said, will go from an occupancy of what I listed at 14, which is more than safe. We have a bunk room, big bunk room with bunk beds for kids. There's about 4 beds in there. And then we've got, a couple bedrooms. So that sleeps about 14. We've had all 5-star reviews. We rent for families. We rent $12,000 a week. Beautiful property, 3 acres. Our neighbors don't like us. Full stop. They don't want us to be there. They don't want our property. They're going, and so by doing this ordinance, we're going to drop to 8 people unless we get an unknown exemption, unknown waiver for more. And you're telling me a 3,600 square foot new construction home with brand new septic, a 5-bedroom septic that we pump annually with all life safety. We have AEDs, we have first aid kits, emergency escape ladders, full safety gear. That we can only have 8 people. And if I want to have my grandma, one of our guests wants to have their grandma and uncle and all the people over, now they're restricted to what we're saying is now an additional 4 people. They can't have a birthday party.
Don't you get, you had 5-bedroom, you said?
I have a 4-bedroom with septic, a 5-bedroom.
So wouldn't, I guess I read that wrong.
If you read this,
It's 10? I
so
thought it would
it's
be
10.
10.
Sorry, it's 10.
Okay.
Sorry, it's 10. We would get 10 people.
Okay.
So we're going to lose 4 head count on a massive property. And so this is where like these details matter. The insurance clause as written is not an insurance product. I cannot buy insurance that covers the town. I've not been able to find it yet. That would say the covered party would be the town of Raymond. What company is going to write that policy? State Farm won't write that. CBR, there's CBiz and a few others out there, but none of those will write that policy because the damages could be unlimited. You mess up the Panther Pond, what's the damages? 50 million? 100 million? Like, no one's going to write a policy like, $1 million. You mess up the lake. And again, why would I mess up the lake? So again, nothing is written here. 3, primary resident, so we have this piece of primary residence unhosted, primary residence unhosted, non-primary resident unhosted. These are unheard of terms nationally. This is made up by this town. Those are not how Airbnb operates. That's not how VRBO operates. You either have a hosted property or an unhosted property. That's it. Those are the only 2 categories. Whether I'm a resident here, why I rent my property, the reasons, and whether it's an old cabin or a new house, it's none of the business of the town. It's none of the business of my neighbors. Of why, like the reason I decide to rent it. The rules around renting it, sure, but it's not the business of the town. And we spent all this time in the planning board trying to articulate why people are renting their properties. Who cares? It's not, so. And the way I came up here really kind of, I was okay with this, but then the way it was presented, it got me a little more fired up because we're acting like the community, like we're just saying feel and need and want, and we're not actually talking about data, Jason's great, love the code enforcement. I feel for him. Alex said in the meeting 3 years ago, Alex Suris said, I will not do this. Our prior code enforcer said, I will refuse to do this. Watch the videos. You know how that room was filled up with people? That's what happened last time when this came up. The whole room was filled with, the whole town was up in arms about this. People came from out of the woodwork. So I would just strongly encourage planning board, spend some time on this, get it right, do an impact assessment, or let's make this a registration. Let's go get the data. My data says we have 200 properties in all of Raymond. And by the way, do you know how many noise complaints we had in 2024 per the Cumberland County Sheriff's Department in all of Raymond?
I remember this because I actually went to that meeting. 11?
I ran 10 entire noise complaints for the whole year.
Wasn't it
5 of them from Tire Warehouse.
Yeah, I almost said that tonight because I was like, ooh, I think it's going to be another tire place. We're going to have the same complaint.
So where is this problem? Like, where is this magical issue that's occurring and that is going to ruin this town? I agree. Let's get registration. Let's get data. But let's take our time. And we're not knocking the work the planning board did. It's great work. But it's not there yet, and we shouldn't jump to conclusions, and we shouldn't start pushing these things through. It's going to be a huge divisive thing in this town. And the last piece is violations. If you don't think the way this is written, I will have 3 complaints on my property the day after this ordinance is written.
There's no doubt that there's a concern, and we raised both of them. And when Derek was talking about a couple, I didn't even bring them up because I thought it'd be a long conversation tonight because we're going to have a public hearing. And we're going to be taking more input from both Chris, Jason, and the town manager, as well as the public. And I think your comments and your stats that you have are fine to bring out. We won't have stats until we have an ordinance that starts to produce stats. So that much I do know.
So just do a registration. We don't need all these other things here. Just do registration. We don't need to do occupancy right now. We don't need to do violations right now.
I get your opinion. I understand it. I really do. I'm just saying that we've got public opinion. We've got a community that's very rural, town-related. It's community-related. It's our value is that waterfront. And I think if people are a little conservative, it's because they want to keep that value in the
What
lakes
about
and
all the
waterfront.
work? What about all the investment? What about the Good Life Market? What about the cleaning teams? What about all the money? You're risking all. If we don't do this right.
I don't want to debate. I'm just saying to you, I think we know your concerns. It's loud and clear. I think we also know that there's been people that come before us that have different complaints and issues. We're going to do the best we can by this to allow business to flourish and people to want to be here, and it still allow for some privacy and some decent, I told you, I've got 12 places, you know, I'm not anti. So we got the message, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. Sure, here. Well, I'm not in charge.
No, I was looking at you because I thought you were going to say something.
No, I was going to ask them as she's walking up, to kind of save time.
Go ahead.
The primary residence hosted, unhosted, non-primary residence hosted, unhosted. Did Phil go over, or Matt go over that about fair housing? Is that
Yes.
raise any issue? Okay.
Yep.
They're all treated the same anyways, right?
Yeah.
Speak your name.
They're all treated the same, it's just to see which. how
No,
do
I
we-
know. It's when you start asking too many questions, fair housing comes up, and it's not a fun lawsuit to be in. So
Thank you.
Good evening.
that's a more on
Hi.
the real estate side.
I'm Nicole Keogh, Treehouse Way, Raymond. I'm speaking on behalf of the Raymond Short-Term Rental Initiative Group. We endorse the ordinance drafted by the Planning Board. Please understand that the Planning Board has put a tremendous amount of effort into the writing of the proposed ordinance and ensuring that there was ample public input and guidance from both code enforcement officer and the town's contracted planning and land development firm, Brett. Additionally, the ordinance as written aligns with the town's comprehensive plan, so please consider moving the ordinance forward to a town warrant for the town to vote on.
Town meeting first. you mean?
Town meeting. Yes. That's
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a couple comments that have been typed into the chat.
Okay.
On Zoom. Jen Danzig said, one of the comments that I brought up at the planning board about the 3-strike rule in the ordinance to prevent abuse was to have Jason ask people complaining to document their complaints with the cell phone video to give to him so that it isn't neighbor versus neighbor, he said, she said, but that it's some sort of proof that is more objective than subjective with respect to complying and violating the good neighbor rules in the short-term rental ordinance. Everyone has a cell phone and their videos would have a day and time stamped on them. And they're on here as Mike and Nicole Richmond. It's our understanding that unless there's an ordinance in play, there can be no enforcement by the town or the sheriff. The ordinance allows for enforcement as it provides the guidelines for which to enforce something. This information was provided per the sheriff's office, per our understanding. And to the discussion about HOA, if a short-term rental is already in existence, we cannot create an HOA as a result. And then one more comment from them. This is not personal, and there is no reason we would make any complaint, nor have we, unless there has been an issue. We have stated this many times. We get attacked for even bringing this up. There is a personal deterrent to this business success if the ordinance is passed. We all have all invested in our properties. We all have something to lose as far as value and peaceable enjoyment.
That it? No? Melody?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome. I get to leave.
Thank you. Oh.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no more comments, we're going to move right on. Well, we're going to have to set up for a public hearing, and then we'll, at that stage, we'll change whatever amendments or whatever ways we want to go. If there's something that's, well, actually, at this stage, we're going to have to move this forward as an ordinance
Correct.
in order to keep the process moving forward.
Right, if you send it back to the planning
Yeah.
board, it's done for this year.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to move forward, you've got a month. You can revise it yourself and then hold a public hearing. But you're not going to be able to delay it much more, because I think you want them all in by March. So
Yeah.
you've got,
Yeah.
you have a month, maybe you could push for 2, but then you're out of time.
Well, I don't see us making a lot of changes here anyway. I mean, in the situation we're in, it's already been through your process for all the public
Yep,
input
we had
at
a
that
public
stage.
hearing last
So, I think we move forward with it. I mean, does it take a motion tonight, or do we
Well, no,
take
doesn't take a
time?
motion. It's yours,
Right,
right? What you will now then review, have time to review it.
right.
You'll then hold a public hearing, and following the public hearing, you'll decide whether or not you want to send it.
Well, that's what I started to say when I said, let's have the town manager and
Right.
the two code officers look at it, and then we'd have the public hearing.
Correct.
Okay,
Exactly what we
well, I
said.
thought I said not to do
I think
that.
at some point you either recommend or not recommend, right?
Yes. But I don't think it's going to take long for two code officers and the town manager to look at this and say, what's the complications if you see something or Chris sees something? But I heard Chris say it, and you went on the board. So this would be really coming down to a tweak here or there. Other than that, it's moving forward.
Correct.
All right, that's a process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, budget goals. Thank you.
So after doing a little bit of research around this time of year, the board usually meets and identifies budget goals to help inform that process as we move it forward. After talking with a couple of you, sometimes you hold a separate workshop, sometimes you don't. So I kick that part of this off to you. Also in front of you is a draft schedule for going through the budget process for the coming budget cycle. Take a look at that, see if you have any conflicts or any revisions you'd like to suggest. Finance committee meeting is coming up, so I can bring any of those tweaks to them to make sure we're all aligned on the workshop dates. I targeted Tuesdays weekly at the end of February through March. Typically kicks off with an introduction and department head presentations. And again, if your process is different than how I envision this, on the off meeting weeks that you don't have regular select board meeting, it'd be a 6 o'clock start. On the select board meeting weeks, we would start at 5 with a budget workshop and then go into the regular meeting, sort of like we did the public hearing tonight. We would keep doing those weekly until we get to warrant article review and recommendations, and the ordinance changes you discussed tonight. Then April 1st, you would vote on recommendations for the budget warrant article, and then final warrant approval on either April 7th or the 14th. And then June 9th, you would have your secret ballot referendum vote, should you have secret ballot. But again, look over the draft, let me know if that works for the board, and then we'll talk about it again with Finance Committee on Wednesday, I believe.
I think it's easy to remember Tuesdays. Any questions?
One comment?
Yeah.
Let's get away from these 5 o'clock meetings so people can come to them, because everybody doesn't work in the town of Rain. And I've said this,
You said 5, you meant 6.
he said 5 o'clock.
No.
Yeah, so there's suggested on the meeting nights, you'd open with a workshop at 5. Again, if there are any suggestions or revisions, whatever.
Well, I agree. I'm not a crazy person for 5, but at the same time, the workshop is, I mean, it's not before the meeting, it's, right? It's
On the regular meeting nights, that was what the tentative schedule suggests. So if you want to start at 6 like you normally do, start at 6 with a workshop and just go late.
The other meeting at
Yeah,
7?
whatever works for you guys. That's why it's a draft. That's why we're talking about it.
Avoid the 5 o'clock concern.
I understand that.
3 years now.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it a whole bunch of different ways. I've done Saturdays all day, marathons. I've done, whatever you.
I'm not.
Yeah, we're not Saturday people, yeah.
It's not that. I'm
It's-
just completely jammed on Saturdays.
No, and again, this is why this
not
is
all about me.
sort of a loose structure that you've followed in the past. This is for you to revise and tweak, send back to us. We've got, we won't start this process until end of February. So again, if you had a chance to look at it, I'll talk with Finance Committee on Wednesday about it.
I was thinking the 5 would be an hour and then 6 would start, but we had trouble even doing that when we tried to do the policies. When we were looking at budget and policies, it ended up getting pushed out. So I would prefer the 6 and move it as quickly as we can, but I'm one person. Chris, you and Sam, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking, I like the 5 o'clock start, just for the workshop, and the regular meeting at 6 works for me, but I'm flexible, I'll do whatever the board wants.
And Sam?
Mel.
Yeah,
Is there any way you
okay.
can override his mute?
I think you can ask to unmute, but
Yeah.
he can unmute.
Sam, you've been on mute since we had every question.
Can you hear me now?
We can, thank you.
Okay, I'm in agreement with Chris that I like the 5 o'clock start, if it works for everybody, and 6 o'clock regular meeting.
That's what you said too?
No, I could care less. I'll do whatever gets us here, except for Saturdays, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Okay.
It was just a thought.
Yes.
You said we could do anything. I would opt for a compromise, 5:30.
Okay. Do you want to make a motion to adopt a tentative schedule, and then I can bring it to the Finance Committee's next regular meeting?
Oh, we can do that, a tentative, and then deal with it as we, I'm not opposed to that either, believe me. I just think that even for the public viewing, they can go to the video, but if they're, 5:30 is a compromise. I mean, the workshop is for the department heads to come in and talk, and it's for us to talk amongst ourselves, correct?
I'm new to town meeting, but typically we would do the joint meetings, departmental presentations. It's an overview, but it also is an opportunity for those departments, like for folks who don't, for the benefit of the public who don't follow what we do. It's how they understand how their tax dollars are being spent, hitting the highlights, what objectives have we accomplished this year, what are we proud of, how are we moving forward. So the presentations are probably repetitive to those who've sat on these committees for a long time, but we do that because the other piece of it is people are coming into this not knowing. So we try to, at least how I've presented budgets in the past, use that narrative piece to also inform the public on how those dollars are being spent and what we're proud of and how we've achieved those service deliveries over the past year and going forward. So it's for everybody.
Did you have some of your own budget meetings too, though? Wasn't there budget and finance that had a couple in the beginning?
Every month, once we had the information.
Right.
This is tough for those people. I don't know if they can hear.
Oh, yeah.
Zoom people, there's a lot of.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go up
people
with a
on
mic,
Zoom.
but, only Kurt, yeah. Sorry.
There's just 7 people up there that can.
Cliff Small. I'm on the finance committee. We have our monthly meetings anyway, and just as soon as we have some data, we'll start digging into it. Does that answer your question?
Well, yes, because I was saying you guys meet to talk too, and these are the joint meetings, so you're talking 3 joint meetings.
So we'll be meeting on second Wednesday regularly throughout that time frame anyway. Third Wednesday, yeah. Third Wednesday is when we meet, and so we'll still be having those meetings. And then in the past, we've doubled up with the SelectBoard's meetings which is a Tuesday, usually the week before.
The first one in question at 5 o'clock is March 3rd, so I think we have more
Yeah.
than enough time to
Yeah.
figure this out.
Yeah, because the off weeks, you don't have regular meeting. It is just a workshop. So the only 5 o'clock starts were during your regular meeting weeks. But again, can always change that.
Go ahead.
Sean McKelvey for Main Street Budget Finance. Maybe we could put on the agenda but I'll suggest it to Karen, put on the next week's budget agenda to discuss times.
Yeah, and it'll give us a chance to think too. Let's do that. Like you said, we've got time to talk this over.
Just had to throw it out there because
Yeah.
we had a
No, I
process.
like having it. It's right there now for the dates, and now the question is, if it's joint meetings, who knows? Maybe this will be real smooth and it can be quick. I'm just saying it might be different this time. So we'll accept this as tentative and we'll move on.
Glenn, you need a motion?
No, we'll
to
talk
accept
about
as
it at the
tentative?
next Finance Committee meeting, so I'll just bring it back to a future agenda and we can revisit. It's fine.
All right, without a motion, we go to the next one.
Oh,
which-
the last piece was the budget goals. Do you want to set a separate workshop for that for yourselves, or do you have anything that you want to?
Let us.
I don't know how you've done it historically. When I went back to past meetings around this time of year, there's usually something that Don or previous town managers have used to kind of.
It kind of combines with what the town manager's goals are. I mean, we always basically put in there the roads, stay on top of the roads. This time around, I probably would be saying shoulders because it's part of the comprehensive plan. that we'd like to see an emphasis on safer and wider shoulders. You know, that's me personally. Or things that might be in the comp plan that we can incorporate into that. So anytime we could get started on that. But other than that, it's the one we've used, it just kind of gets repetitive with a little tweak when we had in the last year. And then we'll take input from the budget committee as well as board members at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Is there a motion for the resignation? If that's the next thing? The acceptance of Ed Cranich? How do you say that?
Greenwich? Greenwich.
Cranich?
I'll-
Accept your resignation.
Sorry, I'll move to accept the resignation of Ed Cranich from the planning board.
Second that.
All in favor? Oh, if there's
Yes.
any discussion? Yeah, I didn't think there would be with that acceptance.
Thank you for your service, Ed.
Yeah, it's just getting late. Old business, I think we're not, anyone have any old business? I know we talked about putting the MMA on the November meeting, and now it's the December meeting, but,
I have that in my manager's report if you want to wait till then.
okay, that's great. Public comment.
Grace Levitt, Levitt Road. I just wanted to call people's attention to anybody who might be listening or watch this later on to be sure they're seeing the school board update of information of dates and things that is on the town website. I appreciate it being there. You scroll down past the notice for the hearing that was tonight and you'll see it there. But also to let you know that the Wyndham Raymond Adult Education brochure should be coming to your mailbox very soon. It is already on the RSU 14 website. For the winter offerings. Please take a look. There's a lot of good stuff there and hopefully something that will interest you. Thank you.
Didn't they win an award?
Excuse me?
Didn't they win an award?
Yes, the director has won an award. Yes, absolutely. It's a great program, lots of offerings, and so please do take a few moments to look through it. I'll be signing up for a couple of things myself.
Thank you. Peter?
Peter Levitt Road, very briefly. Excuse me. Everyone's overwhelmed. I understand that. So I'll just read it. Traffic calming, new tax increment finance district, resiliency grant, economic development committee, comprehensive plan implementation committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Riley, you usually come up last.
Riley Sylvia, Parks and Rec Director. During this meeting, I've magically we already went to our futsal program. I played a whole game during this meeting and came back. So that's a highlight for today. And then I just want to give a big shout out. We're actually excited to announce, I guess it's the first announcement of it, but we are going to put together an ice rink this year. So I just want to thank Sebago Lake Boat Rentals for sponsoring our rink and giving us a liner. So we're hoping to get that up and running with hopefully freezing soon. So
Thank you. Any more? Hearing none, Select Board. Chris, anything? Comments? Sam?
No.
Okay, Eric? Taylor? I think they've heard our comments. Then we're on to the town manager's report, communication.
Sure. So I'm still very much in an information gathering and orientation phase. I've been here since November 17th. So this is not intended to be an exhaustive list, but just reflects some key priorities as they're emerging and coming into focus. Just a couple things. Office schedule. We will be closing early on December 18th for the annual staff Christmas party. The other thing, after talking with staff, historically you've closed either early on Christmas Eve, but because of the way Christmas falls this year, we would like to be open on Christmas Eve and close the day after Christmas on Friday. So we will be closing the office the day after Christmas Friday. On insurance, MMA, I've been coordinating with the MMA Executive Director, Catherine Conlow. They have a new rate structure that is expected to come out this week. So I'm waiting for their new rate structure. Unfortunately, I am unable to solicit alternative insurance pricing until we're active MMA members, so their risk management folks won't talk to me unless we're a member. So given that we have some time until our next meeting, I guess what I would ask, if the board doesn't mind, is request an authorization to proceed with the MMA membership contingent on me confirming I have sufficient funding in my admin dues budget. I just have to kind of reconstruct it because I just want to make sure we don't have bills that were budgeted for that are coming. It appears you've budgeted appropriately for the MMA dues. I just don't know. I can't find the narrative history to kind of reconstruct that. So I'm going to go back and sort of rebuild the line item budget for my department just so I don't, spend it joining MMA thinking you budgeted for it, and then we have dues for like a clerks association or something, or myself, that are coming. So basically just being...
You say there's money there.
There is. I just want to verify that there's nothing else coming out of that line before I proceed. It's around $10,000, and that's about what you budgeted in the dues line. And my association dues are not $10,000 a year, so I imagine that was the logic behind appropriating that. But I, again, want to go back and confirm what you budgeted for that.
I think we were all in favor from the beginning when we talked about it, as long as it was funding. Do I get that wrong? I know Chris was for it, and we brought it up, and
You guys
I was for
know,
it.
you guys know about it more than private sector person, so I revert back to you guys on that.
I mean, just to hit the high notes, it's helpful from any sort of like non-Raymond specific procedural stuff. We have free legal services, so like questions about, an ordinance change or something procedural that is an LD coming down the pipe. Those are free services that we get. We get access to different portals on trainings. So like there are statutory trainings that we have to do every year. You may be familiar as a business owner, there are some state required trainings like ergonomics and different things. Mimic probably covers some of that stuff for us, but MMA gives us access to a portal so I can run those trainings for free, and also log that they're occurring. So you get some benefits there, and again, access to their insurance products that may save us some on workers' comp. And, representation, like if there's things that are affecting us through the legislature, you can use their, legislative teams and stuff like that. There's a whole host of benefits. And I believe you're one of the few communities who aren't members. And I know there was about a decade ago when there was an exodus from MMA from a lot of communities. I think it had to do with some state statutes that were kind of flying around, and folks left, and some came back, some didn't. But again, if the budget's there, just asking for an authorization to proceed with the membership if I have the budget.
I'm fine with it. I know Chris is. Kayla?
I'll make a
Do we need a vote?
I'll make a motion to authorize the town manager to sign the town of Raymond up as an MMA member pending that there are enough funds, and based on the new rate structure when that comes out.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? I think we talked about it.
Okay, thank you. Stakeholders, so I've been meeting with residents, stakeholders. Last week I met with GPCOG, the MPO, on potential funding options for the 302 corridor. Talked with Nate a little bit. So one of the interesting things is during the last census, you sort of got thrown into what's called the urbanized zone. So as part of the MPO, you may have access to some of the DOT funding programs. One is the UPI. So there may be some grant opportunities along the 302 corridor and the collector roads that touch the 302 corridor. So as folks brought up roads, shoulders, traffic calming, pedestrian safety, the UPI program and other things through the MPO may be available as part of that. So I'm exploring that. Also met with the county administrator, Jim, who talked about there's some less likely that we can access this funding, but there's some ARPA funds that they have not expended. And if we had a shovel-ready project that aligned with their ARPA spending plan, they're looking to give those ARPA funds away. So I'm trying to find something that aligns maybe in our capital plan or comp plan that we could use that for. But I believe they have to spend that by the end of 26, 27. Also reached out to their office on CDBG funds. Cumberland County is the only entitlement county in the state, so we can access CDBG through the county. I had reached out this morning potentially for some architectural design for the Jordan Middle School stuff to see if that'd be eligible through CDBG, and what funding opportunities are there. Budget process, as you know, is kicked off. And as you know, I'm under currently a 6-month contract, so I've been trying to frame things in short-term, medium-term, long-term. What can I accomplish? What can I start that someone else may accomplish? And what can't I get to in 6 months? So short-term, we deliver you a budget. Policies and personnel. So there are some policy changes that'll be coming your way. I know procurement is one that the board has identified as a priority. We will look at that. But one that's sort of surfacing that'll come probably in the January meeting after department heads give me their feedback, is the vacation policy. You may be familiar, last year, I believe the board's intent was to cap terminal leave, so you'd reduce that like sort of terminal leave liability. You passed a policy, may or may not have gotten all the feedback you need, so there are some issues with accruals and implementation, so we're gonna make some tweaks to that and bring it back to you. And then on the back end, there's just some PTO bank stuff as a result of that we're trying to fix, so folks know accurately what kind of time they have. Town cloud implementation stuff that was mentioned earlier tonight, we are very close to launching that new website. Staff trainings are taking place so that the agenda management portal is up and running before we launch. So there's also the document migration project, which is coming, which I believe we can start. Long-term, we'll probably look at different modules for BMV and with department heads and finance on some of that AP stuff, moving away from Trio. Those are things I think we can start in the medium term. Again, that's the content management program that Joe and Kevin started, which will continue once we get through budget. Open space plan came up in the comp plan as I was reviewing it, and I met with Matt Marcotte today with Riley, took a walk through the community forest. And one thing that he had mentioned is they have funding available for us to use if we wanted to develop an open space plan. I'll be meeting with Casco next week, who has already started that process with them. And my understanding from the board is there was an open space committee that sort of was active, is no longer active. So if the board wanted to reactivate that committee and look at some open space planning, Luneco has offered that those funds are available if we want to hire a consultant to develop an open space plan, should that be a priority of the board and it aligns with your comp plan. But that money's there, they're willing to give it to us. And if you have an open space commission, they were willing to give us the funds to do that work. Going to continue reviewing the comp plan just to make sure, like, again, priority alignment, what can I help with short-term, medium-term, long-term? I think some of that is, the Jordan Middle School Phase 1 sort of feasibility planning, some CDBG work, grant pipelines. There's some stuff we can kind of get started on. Long-term stuff that like Route 302 corridor stuff, I don't think is doable in 6 months. I wouldn't expect that. FY25 audit, as you know, we were behind schedule, and we want to avoid delivering you a late audit. So I guess I could ask at tonight's meeting, but once Brenda's back, I would like to look at getting a temp. So in 2015, previous temp manager signed an HGAC contract with some temp agencies that I've used in the past. You still are active on that, but I wanted to potentially bring in some outside temps to help get caught up on reconciliations. I've also reached out to Hank Farah, who's a CPA that does audit prep for Wyndham and other communities in the area. Good news for us, he's very busy and he lives in Wyndham and wants to help us because he's local. We may want to use him for some audit prep work in the future, but was going to think about asking for an order not to exceed 5,000 of SelectBoard contingency, so I could engage some of those folks to help with reconciliation and
We got to get caught up.
audit prep work. So if you want to do an order tonight, that's fine. If not, we can do it at a future meeting.
I don't think we have a choice. If we're not in the October schedule now? Is that what I just heard?
No.
Yeah, then we need to bring someone in to get us caught up.
All right.
Because we heard 2 months ago that they put us off to October, and now it's December, so.
Now there's some reconciliation work we still have to catch up on.
Okay, then I think we ought to make a motion and bring someone in at up to that $5,000 to get us caught up, if that is enough.
I mean, if you want to give me 10 not to exceed, I'll try to stay under that, but I think the bookkeeping work, we can get a lower rate temp with that sort of, because that's just hours. The good news is, of the projects that Joe started with Town Cloud, one of the products that, and I'm actually very impressed with the company, they're out of Norway. I kind of wrote it off as like, oh, it's another solicitation, but they were pretty impressive, and I'm going to meet with Kevin and the other folks on the team. But they have some automated reconciliation stuff. They have some CPAs on their team, and you're not the only municipality dealing with this. This space is, people left the workforce. They've inherited sort of the same stuff that Raymond is dealing with. So this, I think, is a tool that will benefit a lot of communities should they start to get a foothold in the area. And we deal with basically two vendors who are huge and don't care about the little guy. You know, biggest client for Tyler is LA County, 10 million people, millions of dollars a year in licensing fees. So when I put in a ticket, you know, they don't really care about getting to it. So knowing that there are folks sort of entering that space and servicing folks like us, and that's an option down the road is, you know, reassuring. But again, just an order authorizing up to 10,000 in select board contingency to get.
Can I get a
temps.
clarification? Just, I really want to catch us up, but this is for the 24-25.
This is for the FY25.
Yeah, so the expense and revenue sheet we got the other day or last week, that's for this year, right? The one we're in
Correct.
now.
FY26.
All right, so this one is all caught up to that point? We're all set from July to November, I think it was, or October, whenever it was?
I haven't had that conversation internally, but I was assured that your expense revenue reports are now accurate, so.
Okay. Then I just think we ought to catch up on last year's, because we're going to be dealing with the same thing we dealt with the 23-24. So, you know, and we, I mean, this is, the finance director went on with the back operation. Is that what's going on?
I don't want to talk about people's medical
So I got to
stuff.
find out, I want to know timetables, though.
Again, so asking for authorization to bring in a bookkeeper who can assist with some of that grunt work. And again, longer term, Hank Farah, basically what he does is he sort of ties your financial statements and everything up in a bow so that it frees up staff time to focus on budget development and, you know.
Okay, let me say it a different way. I'd recommend the 10,000 then. Myself.
Is there a second?
You recommended 10,000 yourself? Is that
No, I'd say.
So the motion is to
instead of
authorize
a
up to
5,
10,000 from contingency.
If the select board was interested, I would recommend the 10 if we're going to try to get.
Okay, what's the motion?
Motion to authorize not to exceed.
I was asking if you guys would accept that as a motion.
Oh, that's not the motion.
No.
Okay.
If someone says it's too much and we want to go 5, I just want to get it started.
I mean, we could do 5 and always have to come back too. But I'm not, one way or the other is not a huge difference for me. It's out of select board contingency, so.
I'm comfortable with 5 right now.
Have we spent any yet? None?
No, you have to authorize that.
Yep, then.
Chris?
I think 5 now, and we can revisit it if we need to.
All right, I'll entertain the motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize the town manager to use $5,000 out of the select board's contingency fund, or not to exceed, did I say that, 5,000? It's getting late. To hire outside help. Sorry.
Second. Any more conversation? All those in favor?
Yes.
All right.
Next regular meeting is January 13th and February 10th. And that's all I've got. And upcoming holidays. The Christmas party we talked about, day after Christmas, New Year's Day. Next item is building access.
Oh, yes.
Yep. I can kick that off because I asked for it on the agenda if you'd like. So as part of review of building security, I had to remove a code for something a couple weeks ago, which prompted me to think about just doing an audit of that. So when we conduct an audit of door codes and access permissions that were identified, we removed 92 people who were no longer employed with the town, but still had active access to our buildings. So during that cleanup, it became clear too that select board access had been applied inconsistently. So there were current members who had codes, others did not, and several former members who had access. So because no formal policy governs elected official access to town facilities, I temporarily removed all of your access to buildings until this matter was brought up for discussion. So I can manage employee access, but you sort of police yourselves. So I didn't want to dictate what board's access policy was, wanted to bring it to you for discussion. But access for elected officials is a policy decision that should be made collectively in an open session. So I don't hold a strong position on the outcome, but my goal is to understand what your preferences are and implement what the board consensus is. So historically, other communities, I've had access to police dispatchers or key cards, and you don't have that here. So I just wanted to facilitate that discussion and see what you wanted and how I should proceed with it.
I've utilized it, both here, when we've got here before the video people, and I work 5 days a week, so I come up on the weekend sometimes and get the agenda that Mel puts in this slot. So I'm in favor of at least those two buildings for those people who work.
This one and the
town hall. I don't think we need it for anything else besides the buildings that we have to get into or out of for both convenience as well as if we get ahead of a crowd coming in here. You have a code? Do you have use of a code?
I
You used to.
Yeah, no, nobody does. I don't
Right
really
now, no one does.
find a need for access. Just, I mean, I don't know. I can get the paperwork I think I need when things are there. If not, Mel has tape stuff on the door. But I could, it's not a huge, hopefully everybody's using it, properly.
Yeah.
So I would hope if we're elected officials that we're not using it improperly, but there's other stuff that's been
just
done or compromised. So I think it's
The more
safer.
practical
it's
thing
better
I've
for
encountered
for
is
me
like-
personally. I think it's better because there's no question.
Yeah, the more
So-
practical thing I've encountered is like people have left garage bay doors open and I didn't know who did and the pipes froze and then they broke and sewer department has to come replace pipes or something. And, like again, I can govern access over employees and how that is handled, but again, you guys leave a door open and my pipes freeze. I'd rather you
Is
decide
there-
on the policy.
Is there a way where there's a code for select board members that could get in had to maybe call you to get in if there was some sort of crazy emergency where we needed to?
Again, I have no strong opinion on the outcome. I can talk to
No, I mean,
Kevin,
is that a
but, like,
possibility where you could have a code that would just be able to maybe get somebody in if they needed to, but they would have to contact you first to be able to get in?
It seems burdensome. I think that if you guys want access, that's fine. And I can, there's log files and stuff, so I can see,
Right, and cameras.
that sort of stuff. But again, I just didn't want to dictate a board policy to the board.
I personally, I just have no need, so it's.
So for
you
the
guys don't
public's
need-
interest or knowledge, there's cameras everywhere. Kevin has set up really good security, and the code is logged in every time you come and go. And there's two, I think, inside town hall as well as outside. It's more of a convenient thing for those of us who work. And I'm on the other end of town.
I work.
Yeah, I know, but you're working right around here too. I'm down at the other end. And there's not been a problem from SelectBoard, and I had no idea that many were existent.
Neither
But
did we.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I want one.
I don't feel like I need one for the town office particularly. Maybe here, just to get in. That's my only thought. I don't, there was one time where I did want to come in that way, and I couldn't. But, I mean, that's not a priority either. But I personally don't need access to the town office.
Chris or Sam?
Chris probably.
I mean, Chris, yeah.
I have access to the town hall because I'm an employee, so I really don't have any opinion as far as the select board goes. I don't need any other access to other buildings.
Sam? You don't use the code?
I think you shook the camera now.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to be an early riser here, you know that.
Okay, so it sounds like the consensus is the broadcast studio. Okay. Thank you.
And I'd like town hall to get my paperwork.
That's why I'm asking the board.
Yeah, for me. I mean, I don't think there's any problem with trusting the select board
Okay.
members, to be honest with you. And historically, they've had it.
That good with the board?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I've got.
Nothing in the executive session. There's nothing there, so adjournment is in order already.
I move to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Thank you,
Aye.
everyone, and Merry Christmas.